So how long have you been working at the PEI Association for Newcomers to Canada?
Just a little over 3 years.
And what is your role at Newcomers?
I'm the information officer, which is mainly communications, branding, all of the press releases, that sort of work.
And has there been an increase of newcomers to PEI in recent years?
Yes, over the last 5 years, there's been a significant increase in immigration to Prince Edward Island.
And why do you think that is?
It was primarily because of the provincial nominee program, and a majority of our clients, our largest intake is from China, and the provincial nominee program was a program that enabled the province to have investment flow into the province.
I know there are a lot of people working at the association, and I was wondering, in your role as information officer, do you get to interact directly with your clients?
Yes, actually, because part of my role there is to be on the community outreach team, and the community outreach team primarily plans all of the events that the association does as inclusion and community events. So like Multicultural Games Day, Diversity Festival, which is our big yearly festival that we have at the end of June, our Christmas open house, and other events that we have throughout the year. We always have a volunteer appreciation night as well, and that honors our matches in our EAL and community inclusion program, and also just people who generally volunteer with us. So the community outreach team, which I'm part of, does a lot of interaction directly with clients, but in my role as information officer, no, I don't deal directly with clients unless I'm interviewing them specifically for some purpose or something like that.
What are some of the challenges of the job that you do?
The job I do is fantastic. It's different all the time. I've got a lot of different tasks that I do. I do have certain things that I need to be responsible for every month, and I do also do a lot of the applications for funding for different events that we put on, and sometimes that can be challenging, to just to figure out exactly, make sure that you have all of the pieces that you need for a major application. We got funding this past year from the 2014 fund to do 2 additional diversity festivals, actually in Montague and in Summerside, as well as Charlottetown. So that was a large application, and there were lots of parts to it. But generally, my job it's not so much difficult as it has its challenge in terms of time management and just getting everything done.
And what has made your job most worthwhile for you?
Well, it's a wonderful job. I love the people that I work with. They're all really committed to their work, and they do great work. I love interacting with new immigrants, and our clients all have interesting stories, and I'm a writer and I love stories, and there's a lot of motivational people, and it's just a really wonderful place to work.
Mm-hmm. And if possible, do you think you could share a short story that you find inspirational?
Well, we have non-disclosure contracts that we sign, so we can't actually talk about any of our clients or any of their stories. They're their stories. But there are some ones that are public. We do an annual report every year, and this past year we focused on telling some client stories from clients who were wanting to and willing to have their stories told. And so there were some, amazing stories that got told in that annual report. So I could tell you a couple of those. We had one young man who had been born deaf, and he was a refugee, and so his family and he had kind of developed their own sort of sign language. But when he was able to when he was accepted as a refugee, his family was accepted to come to Canada from a refugee camp where he'd spent all his life. He was able to get hearing aids that enable him to hear. He was older, so I believe he was 12 or 13 when he got here, so he wasn't able to, he wasn't able to learn to speak exactly like he would have if he'd gotten those hearing aids when he was a baby. But it's changed his world tremendously, and he's been able to go to Nova Scotia actually for additional training and to learn how to use like an iPad to communicate with and things like that. So he's just progressing and having a lot of fun in his life and being able to express himself a lot better. So that's one. There's another story of a family that was reunited after being apart for 11 years because the husband didn't know that the wife was still alive, and the wife didn't know that the husband and her boy were still alive because they were separated during a civil war in the country they were in, and they were both in separate refugee camps.
Wow.
And so they ended up finding out that each other was alive, and then the woman's church group, she was here in Canada, sponsored the father and the son to come because of the immigration rules. Her husband and her son weren't written down on her papers in her refugee camp because she thought they were dead, and because she wasn't the head of household. It's kind of complicated, but anyway, basically she wasn't able to say this is my husband and son because they wouldn't, like, the government wouldn't believe that. So her church group actually sponsored them, and it took quite a while for it to happen. Usually that takes 3 to 5 years to happen. But they were eventually reunited, and so they're all living together, and actually my son is good friends with their son, and they're just lovely people. Really nice story.
Yeah. And do you have any closing message for those who are new to PEI?
Well, just welcome, and we're thrilled that you're here. It's very lovely to get to know people from all different countries and to learn about other cultures, and it broadens, I think it broadens our lives, it broadens our experience, and it makes us better people to to see the world for what it is, which is just one large, large community of people.
Thank you so much.
You're very welcome.